My wife, Melissa, treats me like a stain on her expensive rug that she just can't quite scrub out. To her and her circle of high achievers, I'm David, the man who smells like motor oil and wears faded cargo pants. The janitor, husband she's forced to hide in the basement whenever her important friends come over for cocktails. Just last week, I overheard her telling her tennis partners that I maintain the facilities for a large corporation, a fancy way of saying I mop floors. She looked at my grease-stained hands with such pity it would have broken a lesser man. But here's the thing Melissa constantly forgets. I don't mop floors. I build the world those floors are built on. She thinks I'm tinkering with junk in the garage, but while she's out networking, I'm the Ghost Code, the tech world's most influential anonymous blogger and the silent CEO of Apex Systems, the very parent company that owns the firm where she works. Tonight, she's bringing her boss home to show off her ambition, but she has no idea that the janitor is about to go live to 1 million people, and her boss is one of my biggest fans. Before we reveal the moment the mask slips and the world finds out the truth, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and drop a comment below. Have you ever been underestimated by the person who was supposed to know you best? Let's get into the story. The humidity in the garage was thick, but the air inside my soundproof studio pod was crisp and cool. I adjusted my high-end condenser mic and checked the lighting. On the screens in front of me, the viewer count was already climbing. 20,000, 50,000, 80,000. My subscribers, most of whom are high-level engineers and tech investors, were waiting for the big reveal. For 3 years, I had streamed with my face obscured by a digital mask, known only as the architect. Tonight was the night I was going to show the world who I really was. David, are you in there? Melissa's voice shrieked through the garage door, muffled but sharp. I told you to clear out the driveway. Mr. Henderson will be here in 20 minutes, and I won't have him seeing your rusted-out truck parked next to his Porsche. And for heaven's sake, put on a clean shirt if you have to come inside to use the bathroom. I told him you were the evening maintenance guy, so he wouldn't ask too many questions. I sighed, hitting the mute button on my console just in time. I looked at my reflection in the monitor. I was wearing a gray hoodie and an old pair of jeans. To the untrained eye, I looked like I belonged in a warehouse. To the tech industry, this was the uniform of a billionaire who didn't need to impress anyone. I'll move the truck, Melissa. I called back. Good. And stay in the garage. I've ordered catering, and I don't want you hovering around the appetizers like a hungry stray. This night is crucial for my promotion. Mr. Henderson is the regional VP, and if he likes the environment I've created here, I'm a shoo-in for the director role. Don't ruin this with your presence. I heard her heels click-clack away across the concrete floor. She didn't even wait for a response. She never did. To Melissa, I was a background character in the movie of her life, a necessary but embarrassing piece of furniture. She had no clue that the Mr. Henderson she was so desperate to impress spent his Friday nights in my chat room, begging for advice on how to scale his servers. I turned back to the camera. My finger hovered over the Go Live button for the main event. The architect was about to speak, and for the first time, he was going to do it without the digital filter. I looked at the clock. 7 p.m. The same time Melissa's dinner party was starting in the main house. I could hear the faint sound of laughter and the clinking of wine glasses through the wall. Melissa was probably mid-sentence, explaining how her husband was away on a late-shift project or some other lie designed to keep her status intact. I took a deep breath. My heart wasn't racing from fear. It was racing from the sheer, delicious anticipation of the collision. All right, everyone, I whispered into the mic, my voice steady. Welcome to the stream. Tonight, the mask comes off. But first, let's talk about the company we're reviewing today, Sterling Digital. Or as I like to call it, my newest acquisition. I clicked the button. The live sign glowed red. 1 million people were watching. And in the other room, Melissa was about to find out that the man she was ashamed of was the only reason she had a paycheck to begin with. The viewer count was exploding. $300,000, $500,000. The chat was a vertical blur of fire emojis and finally messages. I leaned into the camera, the professional-grade lens capturing every detail of my face. I hadn't shaved in 2 days, and my janitor hoodie looked exactly like something you'd wear to scrub a floor, but the dual-monitor glow in my eyes told a different story. I was breaking down the quarterly failures of Sterling Digital, the very company Melissa worked for, showing my audience exactly where the leadership had stayed stagnant. This is where the secret life and the public lie start to bleed into each other. If you're ready to see a corporate ladder turned into a slide, make sure you're subscribed and hit that like button. Who's really the boss? Let's find out. Leave a comment if you've ever had a secret talent no one believed in. You see, I told the camera, my voice projecting with the authority of someone who owns the servers everyone else is just renting. Sterling Digital thinks they're the predators in this market, but they've become bloated. They've focused on image and corporate culture instead of actual innovation. They're hiring people who look good in a suit but couldn't code their way out of a paper bag. Right as I said that, I heard the heavy door from the kitchen to the garage swing open. I didn't turn around. I had a secondary camera angle, a wide shot of the studio, and I could see the reflection in my monitor. Melissa was standing there, her face a mask of horrified fury. She was holding a tray of empty wine glasses, her black cocktail dress shimmering under the harsh garage fluorescence. "David," she hissed, trying to keep her voice down, but failing miserably. "What is that noise? It sounds like a stadium in here. I told you to stay quiet. Mr. Henderson is trying to tell a story about his trip to Dubai, and all he can hear is your computer games thumping through the wall." I held up a finger, signaling for her to wait. I wasn't done with my point. "And that's the problem with Sterling," I continued into the mic. "They don't respect the people in the garage. They think the real work happens in the penthouse, but the penthouse is built on the garage's back." Melissa marched over, her heels sounding like hammers on the concrete. She reached out and grabbed my shoulder, spinning my chair around. She didn't realize the camera followed me. She didn't realize that 500,000 people were now looking directly at her shocked, angry face. "Are you deaf?" she snapped, oblivious to the high-tech setup. "Turn this off right now? Look at you, sitting here in your filth while I'm trying to secure our future. You're embarrassing me. I told Mr. Henderson you were out back taking out the industrial waste. If he sees you like this, he'll think I'm married to a loser." The chat on my side screen went absolutely nuclear. Is that his wife? She called the architect a loser? RIP her career. I looked at Melissa, then back at the camera. I didn't mute the mic. "Melissa, I'm actually in the middle of something. Why don't you go back inside and bring Mr. Henderson a refill? I'm sure he's thirsty." "Don't you dare dismiss me," she yelled, her voice rising to a screech. "You're a janitor, David. A glorified floor scrubber. You have no idea what it takes to talk to a man like Arthur Henderson. He's a visionary. He's a leader. You're nothing. Now, shut this down, or I'm throwing that junk out on the curb tomorrow." At that exact moment, a shadow fell across the garage floor. A tall, silver-haired man in a tailored navy suit stepped into the light. It was Arthur Henderson. He had a confused look on his face, holding his phone in his hand. "Melissa?" he asked, his voice echoing. "I'm sorry, the Wi-Fi in the dining room cut out, and I was trying to catch the end of the architect stream. He just went live for the face reveal, and I thought I heard his voice coming from out here." Melissa froze. She instantly shifted her posture, tucking a stray hair behind her ear and flashing a fake, plastic smile. "Oh, Mr. Henderson, I am so sorry. My husband was he was being difficult with his little hobby. David, get up and apologize to your superior." Arthur Henderson didn't look at Melissa. He walked past her, his eyes fixed on me. He looked at my face, then down at his phone screen, then back at me. His jaw didn't just drop, it practically hit the floor. He turned pale, his hand trembling as he realized he wasn't looking at a maintenance guy. "Architect," Arthur whispered, his voice full of a sudden, terrifying reverence. I leaned back, crossing my arms over my janitor hoodie. "Actually, Arthur, I prefer David. But you can call me the CEO of Apex Systems. I believe we have a board meeting scheduled for Monday morning to discuss your division's toxic culture." Melissa looked from me to Arthur, her eyes wide and unblinking. What are you talking about?" "Arthur, he's just a janitor. He's joking. David, stop this." But Arthur wasn't listening to her. He was staring at the viewer count on my screen, which had just ticked over to 1 million live viewers. He knew exactly what was happening. He was watching his career evaporate in real time on the most popular tech stream in the world. The silence in the garage was so thick you could have cut it with a soldering iron. Arthur Henderson stood paralyzed, his expensive leather loafers rooted to the oil-stained concrete. He looked like a man who had just realized he was standing on a landmine, and the click he heard wasn't a glitch, it was the end. Melissa, however, was still trying to reboot her reality. She looked at Arthur's terrified face, then at my smirk, her brain refusing to process that the man she treated like a household appliance was the deity Arthur worshipped. "Arthur," I said, my voice projecting through the garage and straight into the microphones of a million viewers. "You look like you've seen a ghost. Or is it just that you realized your janitor is the person who decides whether or not your department's budget gets slashed next quarter?" Melissa let out a nervous, high-pitched laugh. "David, stop. This is an embarrassing joke. Arthur, he's stressed. He spends too much time in this garage. He doesn't own Apex. Apex is a multinational conglomerate. He just mops the lobby of the local branch." Arthur finally found his voice, though it sounded like it was coming from the bottom of a well. "Shut up, Melissa," he croaked. He didn't look at her. He kept his eyes on me, sweat beginning to bead on his forehead. "Sir? David, I had no idea. The blog, the streams, you always used a voice modulator and that digital mask. If I had known you were the one behind the ghost code." "If you had known what?" I interrupted, leaning forward so the camera could catch the cold intensity in my eyes. "Would you have treated your employees better? Would you have stopped encouraging people like Melissa to climb the ladder by stepping on the heads of small people? You see, Arthur, the beauty of being a janitor is that you get to see exactly how much trash people leave behind when they think no one is watching." I turned the secondary monitor so Arthur could see the chat. It was a tidal wave of outrage. People were calling for his resignation. They were tagging the Apex board of directors. The brand damage was happening at the speed of light. "Arthur, the stream is curious," I said, gesturing to the camera. "How exactly did Melissa describe me to you in the house?" "I heard evening maintenance guy. Was there more? Did she mention my little hobby?" Arthur looked at Melissa as if she were a poisonous snake. She said you were a high school dropout who couldn't hold down a real job. She said she only stayed with you out of charity because you had nowhere else to go. She told me to ignore any noises from the garage because you were probably just breaking things you didn't understand." Melissa's face went from pale to a sickly, mottled purple. She turned to me, her voice trembling. "David, I was just trying to help our image. You know how competitive the corporate world is. I had to say those things so they'd take me seriously. I did it for us." "No, Melissa," I said, standing up. At 6'2", I towered over her, the hoodie no longer looking like a janitor's uniform, but like the robe of a judge. "You did it for you. You were so ashamed of a man who worked with his hands that you didn't even bother to find out what I was actually building. You wanted a director title so badly that you turned your own husband into a secret you had to hide. Well, the secret is out." I looked back at Arthur. "Arthur, you're the regional VP of a subsidiary. I'm the majority shareholder of the parent company. As of this moment, I am recommending to the board that your contract be reevaluated based on the toxic environment and lack of oversight in your branch. And as for your top candidate for director," I looked at Melissa. "I think she's much better suited for a role that involves maintaining the facilities. Since she thinks it's such a humble, simple job, she can start at the bottom. But not at my company." "You're firing me?" Melissa whispered, her eyes filling with tears of rage. "In front of everyone? On a video? A million people, actually," I corrected her. "And I'm not just firing you from a job you haven't even earned yet. I'm firing you from a life you clearly don't appreciate. You told Arthur I was a loser who had nowhere to go. You might want to check the deed to this house, Melissa. My lawyers are already drafting the paperwork. Since I'm just a boring janitor, I'm sure you'll have no problem moving on to someone more high status." Arthur backed away toward the kitchen door, looking like he wanted to bolt. I'll wait for the official email, sir. I am deeply sorry." "Wait, Arthur," Melissa cried, reaching for his arm. But Arthur shook her off as if she were covered in grease. He didn't want anything to do with the woman who had just tanked his career. I sat back down in my chair and looked into the lens. "Sorry for the drama, everyone. We'll get back to the tech review in a second. But first, I have one more announcement to make regarding the future of Sterling Digital." The garage door leading to the house stayed open, but the bridge between Melissa's world and mine was officially burned to ash. Arthur Henderson didn't just walk away. He practically ran, his footsteps echoing a frantic rhythm of a man trying to outrun a digital wildfire. Melissa stood paralyzed, staring at the glowing monitors that displayed her own humiliated face to a global audience. She looked at the chat, a relentless scroll of karma, justice, and janitor, 1, gold digger, 0, and she finally realized that her social climbing had ended in a sheer, vertical drop. "David, please," Melissa whispered, the tears finally overflowing, ruining her expensive mascara. "I didn't mean it. I was under so much pressure to fit in. You know how those people are. I love you. I don't care about the money or the company." I looked at her, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel the sting of her insults. I felt nothing but a calm, clinical detachment. "That's the lie, Melissa. You do care. You care so much that you were willing to erase my existence to impress a man who is now unemployed because of you. You didn't love David the janitor, and you sure as hell don't get to love David the architect. You love the idea of a husband you could control and look down on while I funded your life." I turned back to my camera, speaking to the million people waiting for the conclusion. To my audience, tonight wasn't just about a face reveal. It was about a reality check. In the tech world, we talk about user experience. Well, I've spent years experiencing what it's like to be treated as a bug in someone else's code. Tonight, I'm running a system reset. I looked at Melissa one last time. "The movers will be here tomorrow morning. Just like you told Arthur, I'm away on a project. That project is my new life. I've already moved my personal belongings and my servers to a secure location. The lock's on this garage, and the house will be changed at noon. Your director's salary won't cover the property taxes here, so I suggest you find a place that fits your new budget." "You're leaving me? Right now?" she gasped, clutching the tray of empty wine glasses like a lifebuoy. "I left a long time ago, Melissa. You just didn't notice because you were too busy looking at the labels on your shoes." I reached out and tapped the in-stream button. The red live light flickered and died. The screens went black. In the sudden, heavy silence of the garage, the power dynamic was unmistakable. I stood up, tucked my laptop under my arm, and walked toward the driveway where my rusted-out truck was parked. It wasn't actually rusted. It was a custom-built, armored sleeper cab worth more than Henderson's Porsche. As I pulled out of the driveway, I saw Melissa standing in the doorway of the house, silhouetted by the warm, expensive lights I had paid for. She looked small. She looked like a bug in the system that had finally been patched out. I hit the gas, the engine roaring with a power she never bothered to understand, and drove toward a future where I didn't have to hide who I was ever again. Author's conclusion. There is a profound danger in judging a book by its cover, especially when that book is the one paying for your library. Melissa's fatal flaw wasn't just her ambition. It was her contempt for what she perceived as lowly work. She lived in a world of mirrors, always checking how she looked to others, while David lived in a world of windows, looking out at the truth. This story is a testament to the fact that true power doesn't need to scream. It doesn't need a title on a business card or a designer suit. True power is being the person who keeps the lights on while everyone else is busy fighting over who gets to stand in the spotlight. Thank you so much for joining us for this epic journey of justice and revelation. If you want to see more stories where the underdog proves they're actually the big boss, you have to hit that subscribe button and smash the like. Also, tell us in the comments, have you ever been underestimated? We want to hear your stories. See you in the next one.